Welcome back to the Jazz Pursuit. In this video, we're going to look at the great standard All of Me, written by Gerald Marx and Seymour Simons in 1931. Before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe below to stay up to date with new content and releases. Enjoy! So, first off, let's look at the key bits of information. All of Me is usually played as a medium swing in 4/4 time and in the key of C major. The form is 32 bars divided into an A, B, A, C structure, with each section lasting 8 bars. First, we have the A section, followed by the B section, then back to the A section, ending with the C section. Now, let's get stuck into the harmony in the A section. The A section starts on chord 1. Because All of Me is in the key of C major, this is C major 7. We stay here for 2 bars, then jump up to chord 3, a chord built off the 3rd note of the C major scale. We'd expect this chord to be E minor 7, because if we build a chord starting on an E using the notes of C major, it would consist of E, G, B and D, E minor 7. But instead we tweak the 3rd G to a G sharp, making our chord E7, a dominant chord. We finish the A section with a 5/1 cadence to chord 2, D minor 7. So if D minor 7 is the 1 chord in our 5/1 cadence, this means our 5 chord is a 5th higher than D, A7. For a quick refresh on chord types and 2 5/1s, check out the links above. So that's our A section. We start on chord 1, C major 7, and then jump up to chord 3 that's tweaked to being a dominant chord, E7, and then we finish the A section with a 5/1 cadence to D minor. A7 is the 5 chord, and D minor 7 is the 1 chord. Great! Now before we move on to the harmony in the B section, let's have a look at the melody in the A section, as it perfectly outlines our chords. The first phrase is a falling C major triad, outlining our 1 chord, C major 7, C, G, E. We then go back to the same C, step up to a D, and then back down to the C, before falling down an E triad, outlining our next chord, E7. Next, on our A7 chord, we continue with the same sort of pattern, only this time we fall down from the root A to the flat 7 G to the 5th E. Then we have our little chromatic turn down to an E flat, then back to our E, before jumping up to the flat 9 of our A7 chord, B flat. Then we simply walk down our C major scale until we get to the 3rd of our D minor 7 chord, F. Now let's hear how our A section sounds in time. I'm going to play the melody in my right hand and the root and 7th of each chord in my left hand. Super! As we know the form of All of Me is A, B, A, C, we've now learnt the A section, so we've learnt half the whole tune. Now, let's take a look at the harmony in the B section. The B section starts with another 5/1 cadence, only this time it's to chord 6, A minor. So if A minor 7 is the 1 chord in our 5/1 cadence, this means our 5 chord is up a 5th from A, E7. Next, we have what's known as a secondary dominant, where our 2 chord, D minor 7, becomes a dominant chord, D7. This is known as a secondary dominant because it's the 2nd dominant chord in our key. In C major, chord 1 is C major 7, and the dominant chord is chord 5, G7. This is known as our primary dominant chord. If we then find out what the dominant chord of G7 is by going up another 5th, this would be D7, and this is known as our secondary dominant chord, as it's the 2nd dominant chord in the key. Anyway, we have our secondary dominant chord D7 for 2 bars, which then turns minor, D minor 7, and creates a 2-5-1 home to C major and the start of the next A section. D minor 7 is chord 2, G7 is chord 5, and C major 7 is chord 1 and the start of the next A section. Now let's hear our chords for the B section. Again for now, I'll play the root in my left hand and the root, 3rd, 5th and 7th in my right hand. Brilliant! Now let's have a look at the melody in the B section, and there's a clear motific device being used, a chromatic fall of 2 semitones. We start the B section on an E7 chord, and the first note of the melody is an E. Then we have one of our chromatic falls down 2 semitones to a D, the flat 7. Then we rise up through an E triad, landing on the D of our A minor 7 chord, the 4th, which falls to the 3rd, a C. You could call this a suspension. Rather than going directly to the 3rd of our A minor 7 chord, we instead go to the 4th and then resolve to the 3rd, suspending the resolution. The next line starts the same way with another chromatic fall, this time from a B down to the A on the D7 chord, the 5th. We then have a triplet run that decorates our melody. I say decorates as it starts and ends on the same note A, so it doesn't really take us anywhere new, it just decorates the melody line. Then we rise to a B, the 3rd, on our G7 chord to end the melody for the B section. Let's hear our B section melody in time. Again, I'll play the melody in my right hand and the root and 7th of each chord in my left hand. Super! That leaves us with just the C section left, which is my favourite part of the whole tune. We start on chord 4, again because all of me is in C major, this is F major 7, a chord built off the 4th note of the scale. And then, in the next bar, we turn this chord minor, F minor 7. Then from here, our target is to get back home to chord 1, C major 7, to finish the tune and the section. And we do this through a 3-6-2-5-1 progression, a common device used in many jazz standards, where each of the chords are built using the notes of the C major scale. Our 3 chord, a chord built off the 3rd note of C major, is E minor 7, which leads to our 6 chord, A minor 7. Then we reach our 2 chord, which is D minor 7, which takes us to our 5 chord, G7, ending on chord 1, C major 7. Let's hear how the chords of our C section sound. Again, I'll play the root in my left hand and the root, 3rd, 5th and 7th in my right hand. Brilliant! Now for the melody in the C section. This is also really clever as it stays out of the way of the changing harmony. It starts on the 6th of our F major 7 chord, D, before falling 2 notes in the scale and then going back to the same D again, whilst the harmony changes underneath it. Then we have a similar pattern as the A section, where we outline the next chord using its chord tones, B, E, G, on the E minor 7 chord, leading back to the B on the A7 chord. Our final phrase outlines an A minor 7 triad, landing on the C on the D minor 7 chord, the 7th, before walking through the triad A, C, E, landing on the E, the 6th of our G7 chord, ending on the root of the C major 7 chord, C. Let's hear our C section with the melody in my right hand and the root and seventh of each chord in my left hand. Super! That's the whole tune learnt. For more information, check out our Patreon page. Not only are there PDF handouts available, but subscribers get early access to new videos and get to choose the content of videos in our weekly polls. If you haven't already, do like and subscribe, and leave any questions you may have in the comments section below. Happy practicing!